Okay, and welcome to Rise Tribe podcast. This is our second episode with the amazing Colin Wyatt. And this is actually our second interview that we've got with Colin. We've had one earlier, which we're going to post up for you to have a listen to, because that was an incredible conversation, and we want to continue that conversation onto episode 2 of Rise Tribe podcast. So got the fabulous Sam here as always. Do you want to say hello, Sam?
Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to have Colin back for our second interview. Oh, you're in for a treat, guys. I really can't wait.
Absolutely. So let's just have a little bit of an introduction to Colin, because as we were just talking before we came on, I was like, oh my goodness, Colin, is there anything that you haven't done? He's like a one-man band in the whole of empowerment. So he calls himself an empowerment coach, because as he says, you know, we all self-empower ourselves, and Colin, as he says, is the facilitator of that. And also calls himself an energy healer, which kind of covers so much. So without further ado, enough from me. Hi, Colin. How are you?
Hello. How are you, Katie? You good?
Yeah, really
Kirsty,
good.
I mean.
Oh, it's all right.
I started off well already, haven't I? Sorry, let's just start this interview off if we mean to continue.
Yes,
indeed. Why not? Hello, John. How you doing? Oh, that's Sam.
And we've got the birds in the background as well.
Indeed, they look amazing. Yeah. I love your artwork there. Looks fantastic. I wonder if you guys knew each other in another life when Kirsty was called Katie. Could well be. Could well be, because I always keep wanting to call you Katie. I don't know why. It's really interesting. Did you just change it? Is it?
I'm just going to call myself Katie just for you, Colin. That's absolutely fine. I'm still KK then. That's all
KK, good. There you go.
Yeah. So Colin, I'm like the blow-in in this relationship. So you and Sam are the connection. So how did you, just a quick brief, like who is Colin and how has he got himself onto this podcast? How are you and Sam connected? Where did you both meet first?
I met Sam on stalkers.com and
about right.
I met Sam through a mutual acquaintance, I believe, who kind of put us in touch, whose name escapes me. Yeah, but then you kind of reached out, and then we just got talking, and we became friends after that. Yeah, we met in a cafe in Chelmsford, I believe. We did, yes. Yes. Yeah, Drink, which is an amazing cafe. If you so good. Oh, I missed that cafe actually. Yeah, that's right. Awesome.
Yeah. And I understand why you two became friends, because you've got so much in common and so many interests in the same space. I mean, energy first of all, and you know, like they were just talking earlier, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? What's that? And they were just on that. This is an education. So guys, if anything, you're going to be entertained and you're going to be educated within this podcast. So
definitely entertained with Colin. Sorry, right, carry on, Colin. We're all ears. Okay. Well, the question was, where did I meet you? That was, so yeah, I met you through a mutual acquaintance, and we became really good friends ever since. And that was must have been about 4 years ago. At least. Yeah, it's a while ago. Yeah.
So Colin, talk to us about, so you, as you say, you're an empowerment coach. Talk to us about what you believe empowerment is and how you, as a coach, empower other people.
So I think, for me personally, like, an empowerment coach is someone that helps or facilitates someone else to realize something within them that they didn't realize they may have had, something they've been craving for, or something they've always thought that wasn't possible for them, or saw somebody else and going, wow, you know, I'd love to be like them. And just giving them that understanding that actually we can all do that. We are all empowered beings. We're all full of infinite potential. And that's what I think an empowerment coach does. He facilitates that transformation for that person.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it's like you say, you being the facilitator to let people see what they don't see in themselves. You know, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
My belief is everybody, how do I put this? Everybody must have a coach, because, you know, especially if you're on this journey of wanting to improve yourself, wanting to get to the next level, wanting to explore what your passions, purpose, talents, gifts, skills, all that sort of stuff. I just think it's really important to have somebody, you know, whether it be a very good friend of yours that can speak very matter-of-factly to you, not fluff around and, you know, tell you what you want to hear, but you know, really push your buttons and make you level up, let you step up. And for somebody to do that, they need to be able to see things that you don't see, almost like your blind spots. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think they've also, the facilitator also has to be able to hold that space so they can speak kind of sometimes direct and push people into uncomfortable territories. But that person always knowing that they're being held, knowing that it's okay, you know, we're not going to kick them out the nest just yet, but they will.
Yeah. It's creating that safe environment,
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely. Yeah,
that's really lovely. And also asking the right questions, because I really agree, like we've all got it within us, it's just we can't maybe not find it for ourselves without those right questions, being listened to without being judged, and having someone just to see your blind spots and point them out to you in a way that does push you outside your comfort zone, but not over the edge. I think that's a fine balance for coaches. And then everyone's completely different and requires a different approach, which is why I just think there's space. And I know we're all coaches and we all have coaches, right? There's no way we would be doing what we're doing without having spent the time investing in ourselves to push our own boundaries. So and I think as coaches, we tend to have friends that are coaches. I'm sat in a room with you all right now, and we all push each other along and help each other and guide each other. So I like the energy exchange in that. For me, is really lovely when you put yourself in this environment or arena. There's no way you can't grow because you're surrounded.
And also what you're talking about earlier was that conditioning as well from someone. So you know, there's a lot of conditioning and a lot of traumas and a lot of things and blocks that kind of stop people recognizing their own potential. And so, and that even goes, like you said, for coaching, you know, coaches need coaches, you know. Everyone's ascending, aren't they? You know,
we all have our blocks and our stuff, so we all need help to get through those. Even if we are coaching others, we've still got our own stuff, and the more you grow, you're going to hit little bits and pieces. So having someone to guide you through that is essential. Otherwise we all get stuck as well, and that doesn't help anyone.
No, absolutely.
You have two victims. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, like we were saying before, you know, about the amount of qualifications that Colin has that we'll come into. You know, I was just like amazed by it all, and Colin just turned around and said, yeah, but I love learning. And I think that's the hunger I feel. I mean, I'm in a room of hungry learners. I mean, Sam herself, you know, she loves doing courses and then implementing the courses, myself included. You know, so I think, you know, there's a real hunger there from you, you know, to keep learning, like you say, keep expanding, so that you can. Is it because so that you can bring that into your own life and then share it, or is it you've got the outside, you know, the people that you can help first? Is that your sort of priority when you go and do a course?
I want to learn. I want to learn from me, but then what I learn, I can then share. You know, I want to learn that because I want to know, because you can't teach something you don't know, right? So I need to learn that from me first and foremost, obviously, but with the intention of what actually I can do with it, and that's to take that in and kind of build something beautiful for other people to experience. And the reason why I've got that thirst for and that hunger for learning, so I think probably this will tick boxes for all of you, is it because we're learning on things that we're passionate about, things that we love, not things that we got taught at school because we didn't want to learn it. Well, I didn't anyway. I was absolutely rubbish at school. I walked away with 3 exams, and I was really glad to see the back of it all.
You've done really badly because of it as well, by the way.
Well, at the beginning I did, because I didn't realize about my own self-empowerment. So it took me years to find out, you know, what I was about. Yeah, much later in life, actually.
I mean, just touching on that, Colin, I mean, like, because I'm kind of in the, you know, the school sort of environment of people around me. You know, the kids are, you know, just not finished their GCSEs or their A levels and they've just got their results. You know, could you speak to any parents that are listening to this, you know, whose children have possibly not done as well as they wanted to, expected, and then, you know, because there's so much pressure on kids to pass these exams, and these numbers that used to be letters, but they're now numbers that they're graded on, you know, is almost like a defining who they are as people. You know, so could you just speak to that for 1 minute, just while, you know, just for anybody that's listening to this who's thinking, oh my goodness, my child is just going to fail at life because they've not got the grades.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've only got to look at some examples of people that didn't do well in life, in school, in an educational background, and seeing where they are in life now. One that we were talking about previous to this was about the book Think and Grow Rich. So Andrew Carnegie, and he started off in the cotton mills, and he was a tea-boy, and he worked his way up until he owned the company. This is a guy that had no real education, and they moved from Scotland, so you know everything he knew was uprooted and gone. Then you have a guy that walked into a auditorium when he went to university, and I spoke to the maths professor that was actually teaching this particular guy. I was fitting solar panels at the time, funny enough, and I was explaining to him how rubbish I was at maths, and he said, "Maths isn't difficult to learn." He said, "It's the teacher. How you get taught depends on how you learn." And then he taught me something which I've forgotten now, but he taught me something, and it just made so much sense. I was like, "Oh my God, like I can do that." He said, "Yeah, when you break it down." But what happens is a lot of the best teachers tend to go to the expensive places, you know, and so that's why it's kept in that small circle. But the guy that I'm thinking of was, he walked into the auditorium. He said, the teacher said he was there for 5 minutes, and he said, "F this, I'm going to make my fortune in music." And everyone erupted in laughter, and that man's name was Mick Jagger.
Oh, what?
So, you know, when you start looking at these people, education isn't what makes someone successful. You have people that have PhDs that can't get a job. You know, it has nothing to do with your
exactly like that.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with your qualifications of what you've learned. Remember, when we're going to school, all we're actually really learning is about remembering something. And you're taking the exam, and I guarantee if the parent thinks their child's failing and they're going, "Oh my God, they haven't got a future," I'd like that parent, right? And I'm speaking to you right now, parent. I want you to remember your second year of senior school on the 4th week in the first month. No, it's gone, isn't it? Yeah. Like, can you remember any of the subjects that you really took? Can you remember really what you were speaking about? No. Why? Because it was all about learning and remembering. It was memory based. It wasn't anything to do with feeling based. It was memory based. And in neuroscience, what they say in neuroscience is what fires together wires together. What doesn't fire dies together. You know, if you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah. So don't be disheartened if your child hasn't done that well at school, because that doesn't mean they're not going to be a success in the rest of their life.
Beautiful.
Absolutely not. And you're a testament to that. I definitely didn't gel with the whole schooling system. And I'm doing all right. And I think that some of us, our
You're
brains
doing
work in a
amazing.
really different way. Thank you, gorgeous. And my learning comes through life experience and actually doing, rather than sitting in a classroom and trying to absorb pointless information. So yeah, I just think, I think it's becoming more and more clear that the schooling systems and other systems are not really benefiting us
It's broken.
as humanity. They're a little bit broken, and maybe creating more issues than solving.
Well, we have to understand where schooling came from, right? The whole idea of school and education did not come because somebody said, "Actually, do you know what? Humanity needs to learn more. We need to get these children educated." There was nothing to do with that. It was actually when the Industrial Revolution began, they didn't have enough intelligent people to work the machinery, and they said, "We've got to give these guys a basic education just so that they can actually work the machinery," like killing themselves and killing everyone else around them. And that was the whole reason why education came in. And you know what? Nothing's changed.
And we're still doing the same thing.
if you take out all of the infrastructure and all of the whatever it is, if you look at the basic thing, what is it really about? It's about getting them out into a job so they can get into the workforce and pay taxes for the rest of their lives, and spend very little of their life actually living.
And there's definitely a movement in this. It's in the UK. There's like lots of forest schools and different types of learning sort of coming up. And what do you do in forests, Colin?
Yeah, so I teach bushcraft as well.
Nice. Oh my goodness.
That was a smooth, wasn't it? That was
Seamless.
smooth.
Well, it was seamless until we all started bloody giggling.
Oh, hang on. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
no.
Sam, you've enlightened yourself. You disappeared there. That was amazing. How did you do that?
She went into the background.
So I teach bushcraft as well. So again, it was something I felt really drawn to really getting into in 2021. Just really had a desire to learn. I thought, and the message I kept being told in my mind with the channelings and the, things that go on there, and I kept being told, if the electric went out, if the gas ran out, can you light a fire? And that really struck home to me, and it was like, well, I could, but it would be a struggle. And so I wanted to learn on a much deeper level. And actually, it wasn't just about lighting a fire. It's also about foraging your food, right? Can you live from what's around you, and can you build a shelter that actually keep you dry as well? Because fire's all right, but it's not going to keep you dry in a rainstorm, And so it was all these little things that I wanted to kind of learn, and again share with my community and people that were interested.
Do you know what, Colin? Just talking about foraging, myself, kiddies, and Ian went to on a weight camp, shall we say. A friend of ours was put it on. This was like 2 years ago when all the crazy we were probably just about coming out of it. And we went to Cornwall and we all did camping. It was, oh my goodness, it was just bliss. The kids were just running around free as birds. We were all the grown-ups together chatting and all this sort of stuff. But they did like different workshops, and one of them was foraging. And it was just so amazing to see, like I learned so much from it, but, just seeing the kids, like just lit up about, like what they normally see on a day-to-day, especially for us, we're always out for walks with the dogs and stuff. But, like what they're seeing on a daily basis, like the nettles and these, different types of weeds. And what you can actually do with them, and you could see them making things and eating without going, oh, they're not, it's not in a plastic tub. And that's really carried on when we do go for walks. The kids still talk about it now, and it's like that sorts of thing would be amazing to bring into schools, because at the end of the day, like nature is there for us to live off.
But it's not just like what they're. That's an amazing thing, and it's lovely to see that your family is doing that. By the way, that's actually a beautiful gift. But it's not just what they're learning; it's about where they are. See, they're reconnecting back to the earth again. They're regrounding. They're re-understanding, and they're seeing all these other different colors as opposed to pixels on a screen.
100%. Yeah, beautiful.
And it's nice to see the earth in all of its glory in the whole cycle of that year. When there's nothing, you learn to appreciate everything.
100%. So, Colin, you were talking about channeling. That's one of many things that you do within your energy healing. Would you like to just share a little bit more about that, Colin? Because I've had, and I know Sam has, some experience with, not me, but friends of mine channeling, I suppose, extraterrestrials and stuff like that. Like for somebody that's maybe just hearing about this for the first time or has had a little bit of experience, do you want to just share like your experience of that?
Yeah, well, just bring some light and clarity to what you just said about extraterrestrials, because some people go, that's a bit woo-woo. Well, we cannot be the only life force here. That's absolute proven now anyway, and even religions brought that in, into the mix, and they denied that for a long time. So even they admit now that there probably is life somewhere else. And if there's life somewhere else, we've got to think how old the universe is, and that we are quite young in that whole evolution of the expansion of that universe, and those things are a lot older than. And there are things that can communicate through different ways rather than through voice, you know, because we haven't had our voices for that long. In fact, with language, you know, this is very recent for us actually as a species to have language. We didn't use language before. And just give you an example of that. If anywhere around the world, right, if you showed somebody a tree, it doesn't matter how they depict it in their language, in their native tongue, they still recognize it as a tree. That's a global thing. If you showed someone some grass, they would recognize it as grass. It's a global thing. They don't say, oh, that's a shovel. Everyone recognizes it as the same thing. So there is this universal language that's coming through to and through that we understand a basic thing about everything on this planet. No one sees it in a different way. The language might change, the tongue, but the vision of what it really is the same. And so if there is this universal language, and we are quite young in this evolution of who and what we are, then if you go into the older aspects, you know, the bits further out, maybe they don't need language again. Maybe they can communicate through other terms, other ways, you know. And we already know about the pineal gland and how that is a receptor to our intuition, you know. And I believe it's, you know, everything is a receptor. We are antenna. We are, you know, if you've got a radio in your car, the old ones with the aerials, and you couldn't quite get the station, what happens when you stick your hand on it? Oh, suddenly you get the picture, right? You get the station, and it's clearer. That's because we're antenna. We're naturally grounding. We pull in energy, you know. And if you look at our aura, that is now again scientifically proven that it does exist, that is energy leaving the body. So where is the energy coming in? In what way is that energy coming into the body? You know, so there is a communication, a giving and a receiving and sending of information. Yeah, you can't just have sending something. You know, there has to be something coming in. And so that whole thing with ETs and channeling, I think that is the mechanism that science hasn't quite understood yet, and therefore science says it can exist. But then science has said that all the way along, and when it catches up, you know, if you look at brain entrainment, they called that pseudoscience. They said it's nonsensical, it doesn't work. And then about 20 years ago, they stuck an electron microscope into somebody's brain, because we finally had the technology to monitor and to witness it. And you saw when somebody started changing their belief, and the neuron disconnected from the synapse and started reaching out for another neural network that connected it to that belief. And they went, oh, it is real. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. That's not real there. You know. And the one thing they're trying to, and the one thing they won't accept in science, in mainstream science, right, is the fact that we're a soul, that we belong to a spirit, that there is a universal consciousness. They won't believe in that. And here's why, right? And here's how they try to corner anyone that's spiritual that does believe in that. They say, right, well, and we're going to use the word God, right? We just use the word God. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter what you call it, right? It's the same thing. And so they say, well, prove that God's here. And you go, I can't, you know, but, well, how do you know it is? Well, of course it is. But how do you know? And then one day, God decides to come into human form and say, hi, I'm God. And the scientists would say, see, I told you there's no spirit, because now it's in physical form. So therefore, you know, and it's like checkmate, and they're just waiting because they can't prove it. They have to have it their way. And unfortunately, that's the way mainstream science is. And you only have to look at some of these dangerous scientists that are out there, these mad scientists that are creating all different sorts of things, to see how 3D, how into the 3D reality they really are. And in a way, we need them. We do, because here's a question I would pose to you, right? So I'll ask you, Kirsty, not Katie. So so if you could never be wrong, would you always be right?
Oh, well, yeah. You can
That's
never
what
be
most people
wrong.
would say, and it's a fair answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
How would you know what right was?
Yeah. You need to have an understanding of what wrong and right is, wouldn't you?
You need to know what you don't want in order to know what you want.
Mm.
Yeah, and the people need to understand enough to know what they don't want in order to know what it is that they want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we need the mad scientists out there, unfortunately, in a weird kind of way, and we're not justifying anything that they're doing. It's just that there is, on the bigger scale, if we look at it from the outside on a much wider viewpoint, we see actually that they're needed in a way in order for us to kind of wake up more, because we've been asleep for a long time. You know, we've been dozing and we've been caught off guard.
Dozing is a polite way of putting it.
It is a polite way. I'm a very
Conscious,
polite
yeah.
person.
Yeah. But I suppose that's the yin and the yang of life, isn't it? You know, I'm just well, as you said that, I've just seen the yin and yang symbol.
Yeah.
You can't
And well,
have
then
light
we take
without
it
dark.
further than that.
Yeah.
But then we take it one step further than that. And it's not about right and wrong. I don't believe there is a right and wrong. I believe right and wrong is a social construct to keep you in a line, to make sure, and if you don't do it, you're going to hell. Right. And again, we use the word God. And if God was all loving, all creative, and created you to have this amazing experience, why would he wait for you to screw up and go, right, you little toe rag, now you're going to hell and you're burning in a fiery pit of fire for the rest of eternity? Why would a loving God do that? That doesn't sound right to me. So I believe in productive and non-productive. Yeah. Was what you did productive for you and the higher benefit for all? Yeah. Did that serve you and everyone? Otherwise, you know, is it right and wrong? Right and wrong, we should get rid of that whole thing, because that just creates separation, division, and my belief against your belief. You know, once we put beliefs aside, we can go, was that productive? Was that non-productive? And that doesn't give permission to go out and kill people, but it's like, you know, was it productive? Was it non-productive? You know, we simplify it and get rid of the stuff that keeps us divided.
Yeah. And I like how you said for yourself or for your height, you know, for the collective. Sorry, Sam.
That's all right, my darling. The right and wrong is a really interesting one. I'm sort of debating in my mind whether to go a little bit deeper on this right now or not. I don't know.
Do it. Go on, do it.
Go on, let's go.
If God, source, spirit, whatever we're talking, higher power, creation, whatever. Oh, this goes a bit deeper. There is no right and wrong, because it's just experiencing every aspect of itself. So all of the horrific stuff that we perceive as wrong is actually just an experience, and it annoys the crap out of me, because I'm like, cool, that's a bit of a silly game you're playing with yourself, mate. But it's like, so, and I really like the productive, non-productive, or is it beneficial or is it non-beneficial? Like, does this benefit
Did
me
it
and
serve
others?
or did it not? Yeah.
Is it in service, or is it
for the higher good? Because it could be in service.
Yeah.
No, but like higher good, collective good, like. But I think there's a little bit of a danger in that for the greater good, because I think that's being used as an excuse to implement quite awful things at the moment. And then my other question, so that's that. So I've gone through lots of deep spiritual dives on this, with there is no right and wrong. And actually, if you go down the route of we've had many lives, I've been all of, if I believe that, it's just a perspective that is a possibility, maybe I've been all of those awful things that we perceive as really evil and bad in the world, and I've also been the other through many lives. So, and we're just experiencing everything. So that's that. And I had another question and it's gone, so I'll leave you with that for now.
in a funny kind of way, right? When we see all these people doing these bad things, we go, "Wow, they're wrong," or "They're non-productive." And essentially, if the universe came from one thing, then are we not it as well? Are we not part of whatever is happening? And again, we're not justifying how something's playing out here, but just to understand that we're part of that. That's how we learn to step into compassion and go, well, that's not working, and we choose no for that. No, that's not happening.
It's a really interesting subject. So as within, so without, as above, so below.
Indeed.
So whatever
Yeah.
I see on the world
Yeah.
stage is something unresolved
Okay.
in myself. So until we're all prepared to take the full responsibility for everything,
Yeah.
shadow and light,
Yeah.
we stay in this perpetual pile
That
of
comes
shit.
from the Hermetic Laws by Hermes Trismegistus, about
I
as
love
above, so
you.
below, as within, so without, and he teaches all these 7 primary universal laws that
Well,
that
I've never
actually
read
govern
any
all
of
the-
his work, but I've obviously
Oh, you'll
absorbed
love
it
it.
from
One of the most
somewhere.
profound things I ever
Powerful.
heard him say was, death occurs through the love of the body. And I love it. I absolutely love that, because it's so true. We get so entangled into the physical aspect that we think this is it. And it's really not. Death occurs through the love of the body. So the body will cease to exist once the soul has left the body. See, the body doesn't have a function without a soul.
Mhm.
No.
And for the soul to experience a 3D reality where it can taste, touch, smell, fart, and everything else, right? Where it can do all those things, it must have a container for that, which would be the physical body.
Mhm.
But the physical body has no purpose without a soul. I've never seen a physical body walking around without a soul. I've never seen something not conscious, a physical body walking around not conscious. I've never seen one. Have you?
Well, on the odd
Conscious.
party
Hold on a
night
minute.
out, maybe.
I'm not
Oh,
talking about
like
a Friday night in the town.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a
Mhm.
question then.
Mm.
And it's something I'm still working on. I feel I'm getting more of this, but what's the
Mm.
balance between that? How do we balance between the physical and the non-physical? How do we, because I can very easily be in the fairy realm and enjoy that a lot, and then find it quite difficult to be in the 3D density at times. But then other times I really enjoy the physical and I leave the more non-physical, and then it's just finding that balance.
Yeah. And even the good times and the bad times in that physical, right? You break it
Yeah.
down again. And something I had channeled quite recently was it was talking about balance, and it says balance cannot be found in a straight line. True balance is learning to navigate the ebbs and flows of life, always knowing that it's going to be okay.
It's keeping the faith that we're okay.
Hope before faith,
That's
always. Yeah,
that's the key.
always
Hope's an
have hope.
interesting one for me.
Yeah, there's always hope. When you lose hope, that's it, you're done. That's when people go and do things to themselves, when you lose hope. So if you've never done anything to yourself, which you're still here, so that's great, then it means that somewhere inside, somewhere hidden, there's hope that you'll get through, hope that you'll make it through, hope you'll get the help, hope that whatever, but there's hope.
And you need hope before having the trust, having the faith, having
Hope
the
always
knowing.
before faith. Yes.
I will sit with that one, because for me, hope
Because
feels
otherwise you
a
wouldn't look for
little bit
faith
like
if there was no hope.
interesting.
Go on, what were you
Because
saying,
I find
Hope
hope. For me personally, there's a potential kind of weakness in it. It feels like, so I sort of look, is that a program that I've picked up somewhere? Yeah, hope is an interesting one, because I just think you can have faith in yourself and in humanity, but hope just feels like, oh, I'm really hoping it will work out. Well, no, because I need to take the actions to put that in place. So, but that might just be my perspective of hope.
So hope is connected to that higher, much higher aspect, that much higher realm, the higher frequencies, it's the bit that we know in our hearts, we know that this isn't it. In our hearts, we know we're going to get through it. We know things are going to get better, because we've only got to look around us to know that that's true. I mean, when you were little and you scratched your knee, is your knee still scratched? No, it got better. It took time, but it got better. When the world's been hit with all these different disasters have gone on in history with comets and all the rest of it, has it always recovered? Yes, it's always recovered. Does a universe always recover? Yes, every single time. So what would be different for humanity being a small dot in that whole aspect? What would be the difference in humanity not getting better?
But that's also then us looking as a collective more than an individual basis, because I think a lot of our fear and everything comes from what's going to happen to me
Because
and
we've learned to
my
be divided.
body.
Yeah, exactly. We've learned to be divided
Exactly.
and separated, so it just becomes me, mine, I. And actually, it's me, our, us.
Yes, but we are all here as individual expressions as well.
Of the same thing. And that should be
Yes.
the
So
key. We remember of the same thing. Yes, we are experiencing, like, there's that beautiful fragrance of Sam that I see just glowing away in this beautiful screen, and this beautiful resonance of Kirsty just popping through as well, you know. And I see those, and I see you as you. But I know that as I see you, I see me. As I see me, I see us.
lovely.
Yeah, that kind of leaves me a bit speechless, because
Mhm.
we are all connected, and what's in you is in me, and what's, you know, so when you hear people saying, oh, that person is this, whether it be amazing or derogatory,
Mm.
what you see in that person is in, because we're all connected.
So when you see something really negative happening, something in the world, and we go, no, I'm not sure I believe in this hope thing, because like that's like a weakness. There is a part of you that thinks, but I don't want it this way. And somewhere in there, you see, is where the hope lies.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, you see the change. You see the potential, the higher potential to what it could be.
I always see that. I
And
just
then
don't
hope is
call it
birthed.
hope.
You don't have to.
Interesting.
Yeah, you just call it
Yeah,
what
no,
you want to
it's
call
just
it.
a word at the end of the day, right? But I've obviously
It's
attached a
just,
meaning to it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
But do you
really
know what's,
Yeah,
interesting.
but
Sam,
it's
I know
mostly a
where
feeling, isn't it?
yeah,
You know, hope is a feeling, really.
yeah,
You know, if we boil it down, because you remember everything is coming from the higher to lower potential. So that whole understanding of hope, which is always connected to love, that higher aspect of hope is being filtered down through the senses. So then we feel hope, or we say it's a word hope, but it's beyond that. It's a frequency. It's a non-physical part of all that is, which is beautiful.
I feel it as a knowing.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
word, it's
Mm.
just words, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's super
Yeah.
interesting. I will look at my attachment and perspective of hope.
but Sam, has that come from, because I know in the personal development world, when people
It's
say,
definitely come
oh,
from that.
it's going to work out, and then I've heard people saying, yes, but hope is not a strategy, you know, so
No,
possibly it
it's
may,
way beyond. It's actually way beyond a
Way
strategy.
beyond,
yeah,
yeah. And
It's
absolutely.
it
more
is.
powerful than anything, because it will give you a strategy. It will give you the drive. It will give you the inspiration and the persistence to continue with something, because there's hope.
You know, I'm gonna have a little play with hope and see what happens, because
Yeah.
it might be
Yeah.
quite a nice motivation.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way to connect, like, to that angelical realm as well. You know,
Oh,
because it's
don't do
very
that.
high
You
vibration.
won't see me for weeks.
Oh, I love that. Sam's off. She's at
Yeah.
deep dive. Yeah, 100%. But you know, talking about what you see in me is in you, you know, that can also go to the Ho'oponopono prayer that I know you are is it a practitioner in
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
The Hugh Lynn and Joe
That's it.
Vitale. Well,
Yeah.
it's Hugh Lynn, isn't it? But Joe
Yeah.
Vitale brought
Yeah.
it to, you know, sort of the masses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there is that
Hugh
connection.
Lynn, that was interesting. That whole story of working in that. I'm not sure if
Mm.
people know that story. Should we share it?
Yeah, go on,
Yeah,
share it.
let's share it. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I
Amazing
love it.
story.
And it really, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
So there was a mental ward in, I believe it was Hawaii, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And no psychologists could stay there. Psychiatrists could stay there for very long. They kept leaving. They just couldn't handle being in that environment. And they got in contact with Hugh Len once, and they said, would you? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll work with them. And they went, oh, great. When can you come and meet them? And he said, no, I won't be meeting them. And they're like, what? He's like, no, I won't meet them. I'm not going to have a sit down and have an appointment with them. He said that I would pass them. So in the hall, you would pass them and say hello, but you wouldn't actually sit down and have that conversation with them, right? they said, well, how are you going to work with him? And he explained about the procedure of Ho'oponopono. He said one of the things he noticed in that place as well was the walls, the paint was starting to flake off. It was for that whole energy that was happening, it was just starting to flake the paint. It just did not feel like a nice place to be in. And he continued using Ho'oponopono, which is 4 words. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And it's an ancient Hawaiian healing modality that families would come around, even if they had a feud with each other, and they would just start saying that, and that would create the healing that was needed. So he improvised on that into using it in his psychology treatment, knowing that was, for him, that was what works, right? It's a very powerful thing. And in a record amount of time, the patients were off of their really, really strong meds, and to the point of where the actual wing closed down, because they all got better, and no one could even understand what happened, except the only thing that had changed is the approach to how they were treating them. And the other thing that they noticed as well was the walls had stopped flaking. The paint had stopped flaking from the walls,
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's deeper into that, but that's kind of nutshell.
There's a lot deeper into that, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, because what he was doing, he was looking through, he was given their files, wasn't he? And he was looking through them, and what he was reading about this person, he was taking that 100% responsibility.
Yes.
What he was reading of that person, what that person had done, he was saying, that's in me. I'm going to take that 100% responsibility, heal it in me, and by healing it in me, I'm healing it in others. And again, that comes back to how we are
everything,
all
and everything is
connected.
you.
And it just sounds like an urban myth, doesn't it? But
I know.
see it yourself, and you can really see the change in that person. If you practice and you're open to seeing it.
Yeah. But even the most skeptical person has had a point in their life where they've spoken to someone and they've really given someone some really helpful things where it's changed the person's mood of how they felt. Enough said.
Job done. Yeah. Just
beautiful.
Do you want to touch on the YouTube, the 2 YouTube channels that you had? The one was what is channeling?
Oh, it was the interview with Richard Vobes, is that right?
Yeah, Richard Vobes.
So honestly, when I saw that come up, Colin, I was like, go on, that's awesome.
Right, so first of all, tell, because I don't know who Richard Vobes is. I'm feeling like I'm a bit of like,
out.
Okay, I want to know, who is it? Who is Richard Vobes, first of all, and why is it that's so exciting, Sam, that Colin's had a conversation with him? Because I'm like, okay, I'm missing something here. Tell us.
So go on,
Colin,
you go, Sam. Go on, no, you do it.
Okay, I've been watching Richard Vobes for quite some time. He's a really eccentric English guy doing a podcast, vlog, or whatever you want to call it, on YouTube, and he speaks about the subjects that I love, but he speaks about it in a way that everyone can hear it. He's not shouty, he's quite factual, and he gives these perspectives in a really, really clever way. And I've been watching him, and then Colin, I was like, oh my god, Colin's him. So good. And then but he doesn't look like he would delve into these subjects, right? He's got a quirkiness about him that I really like, and I really like his sense of humor. It's a real British sense of humor. So I find him quirky and awesome. And then there was Colin. I was, it's amazing. So Colin, tell us what your experience, and how did you get on? What happened?
I was just about to say, how did that connection come?
Yeah, well, I've been watching Richard Vobes for some time as well, and he's not afraid to kind of reach out and talk about some very delicate subjects, if you like, partly to his detriment at one time, because he did get a ban from YouTube for it, for breaking a small thing, whatever it was. They banned him for a week, and I'm like, there's other ones out there which I do question their authenticity and who they're part of, and they've not had bans, and they should have been banned like a million times, and yet this little guy just comes up and suddenly they pop him off, and I was like, that was interesting, and that made me reach out to him, and
nice.
and I emailed him and said to him, no, I've got something to share, and I think it needs to be heard, and I'd kept all this under wraps. I'd kept it all because I knew it wasn't about when I think it should be. I just knew when the timing was right, it would come, and that was the right timing. So I just reached out to him, and we did an interview. On the first one was called Just What Is Channeling, and Richard's an amazing interviewer, but we digressed a lot. So I didn't really get to talk about the main thing, right, which is like the channeled message, which is really, really important. But we spoke about some amazing things, and he's just a fantastic man, and I love him already. Do you know what I mean? He's just the guy that you wouldn't want to sit down and have a chat with. And so he said about me going on again another time, and so I actually went to his studio the second time, and we did the YouTube there, and to meet him in person, it was lovely. Really nice, welcoming guy. His partner,
Super cool.
she's gorgeous as well, just a beautiful soul. And we had an amazing time just recording and talking, and we still digress slightly from the main message, but it didn't make a difference, because there was a lot of information that was shared there actually. It was really interesting. What was really interesting after that, a week later, I broke my toe, my little toe, and then I broke it again, different spot, same foot, same toe, with 3 days within breaking the first one. And I thought, there's those little minions out there that kind of maybe putting obstacles in the way to try and say, "Oi." And when I asked intuitively, what happened there, and it came straight in, and that was why I've just said that then. It was because the message I got was, be careful where you're treading. Yeah,
Wow.
I know. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a different take on the feet to me, but that's really interesting.
I was going to say, be
Mm.
careful where you're treading, like treading in what you are talking about, or what you are.
I think so, because some of the things I spoke about was like,
Okay.
yeah, it
Fine,
certainly
darling.
pushed
Well,
buttons.
Edgy.
Yeah,
edgy. It's a little bit edgy, Colin.
a little bit edgy.
Love it. So I love that you did these interviews, and both that you digress, because this is what we're all about. We don't have like a set agenda. It's going to go wherever it
No,
goes,
exactly. Yeah.
which is great, and I love. But I would
Mm.
like to know what the main message was in that first podcast that you didn't get to about the channeling. So what was it you didn't get to, and can you share that with us, or is it just too
Indeed.
edgy?
No, I can.
Careful
I'm
where you
happy to
tread.
share it
No
with you.
broken toes,
I don't
please.
care. That's like, if like, I mean, I'm here to share a message, and that's it. I don't
See if we
care.
get banned on
They
our
do what they
second
do.
episode, Becky.
Yeah.
Thank God, wasn't it?
Well, the
It's
message
all
is,
right. We'll get all rumble. Don't worry. Sorry, darling.
that's
Carry on.
right. It was the longest channeling I've ever done in my life. It's still continuing. I just haven't gone back in yet. I've already got the downloads. I know, but it will come as and when I kind of put myself in that zone again. But there's a lot there. It came as a result of doing an ayahuasca experience, and that put me straight into my deep channeling state, and that was it. I just could not stop writing. They called it the transitioning of timelines. This was in 2019, somewhere around there. And they were talking about the transitioning of timelines and how this all works, and just exactly what's going on, and from a perspective that's so far out of the 3D aspect that it kind of, you might have to listen to it a few times for it to make sense. Maybe not you guys, because you guys are, but some people may have to listen to it a few times, because it will actually challenge your belief system. It will challenge your conditioning, and they talk about how everything works in these cycles. Yeah, everything's cyclical, and that when you're born, you are born with this thing called choice, free will. If you did not have choice, you would not have free will. Yeah. But in order for free will and choice to exist, you must also have the opposite to that in varying degrees. So now we're talking about alternate timelines or parallel universes, in a sense. Yeah. Which goes a bit woo-woo, but we know now that that's actually, I wouldn't say mainstream science again, because they would never show you this, but if you look at other science modalities, they'll show you actually why this is real. This is actually a real thing. That we have these multiple dimensions and these timelines that are of like where you are now, but the choice you make takes you into a different thing. Remember, nothing's really here. Everything's just really electrical impulses making things seem like they're, because they're more dense aspects of light. All right. So it says that every choice you make, something else branches out. Yeah. And so what you start creating are these like roots. And so the first thing I saw was like the tree of life, with the roots at the bottom and the roots at the top, where you start branching out. And then what happens is every now and again, all of those roots come back together again. They meet, and then you go back out again and form all these other alternatives, and potentialities and stuff like this. And so what I saw was this going up. And as I kind of put my awareness to that, I realized what that was as well. That's the DNA strand.
I just did that, yeah.
Right. That was the DNA strand. So that blew me away just from that. I was like, oh my gosh, right, okay. And they're explaining that we have these transitionings of timelines where, depending on how you're vibrating with your frequency, depends on where you go next. But we're going to meet a cusp. We're going to meet, and we're going into the bottleneck of it now, basically. And we're not there yet, but we're close. And
Colin, sorry, is that humanity as a whole or individually?
Both, as a consciousness. The consciousness of humanity is like it's kind of coming in. It's all meeting back in on itself again. So then it'll kind of splay back out again. Yeah, and it will choose all these other things. And one will go down an avenue of being under control and being manipulated and having this really negative experience. And the other side will have this other different experience where things start to get better and just things look much nicer. Yeah. And none of them are wrong, because they're just how energy is playing out. We have to simplify it, and we have to get out of the emotion. We have to, even though emotion is important because it creates the vibration and the frequency we want to put out, but we have to get out of the emotional fear and that emotional conditioning that that you're kind of, you're stuck in this. How do I even explain this? See, a lot of what I get, I have to try to put into words.
Almost like a translation from what you've
Yeah.
got to
Yeah,
how
literally.
can I explain this
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
3D world that we're living in.
So it's getting out of that. It's stepping away from the emotional attachment of the fear of death, I guess, the fear of loss, the fear of pain, the fear of suffering. And if we can just come back from that and just come into a different vibration of understanding, well, number one, that's going to raise your vibration and your frequency anyway. But we have to come away from all the fear that we're being projected with it right now. Why? To keep you in a lower vibrational state. That's all.
Yeah.
They understand all this. They know that if everyone ascends, if everyone goes there, there's nothing for them to control. Yeah. There's nothing for them to hold on to, because they feel needed that way, because they have no idea, because I believe they're young adolescent souls that have no idea of the whole the bigger picture. Well, they do, but I think some like being where they are, and some have no idea actually what's happening to the bigger picture of it. So basically what it was also saying, so the main message is, this is happening, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be rough, it's going to be bumpy, but there's nothing to fear, because no matter which way it goes for each person, it's always going to be okay. You just have to remember that you're more than your physical body. You have to remember that you're more than that. You've always been more than that, because you came from something that was more than that, and you came into something that feels less than that, and you're going to go back to something that's more than that. And we have that, and that just that full awareness comes back again. And it's just a journey. And there's a few ways to explain that. So, because some people get bogged down with the fear of death and dying, and this is the main thing. This is what keeps people in fear, right? And here's one of the things, right? So if you look at the Big Bang theory, right, and we're going to go from a scientific perspective because people want tangible proof,
Mhm.
Yeah, you can't just go, well, it is, because that's not enough. So if the world began from a big bang, okay, and they say that that big bang started from something that was once smaller than an atom, that everything contained within that, or everything that's out here was contained within that. So every star, every planet, every piece of plastic, every bit of metal, you and I being no exception to that rule. It would also mean that every possible scenario and every thought that could ever be thought must also have been contained in that dot smaller than an atom. It also would mean that consciousness, as a conscious being that we are, self-aware, self-awareness must have also been contained in that dot smaller than an atom, because by science's own admission, nothing existed outside of it. And there you have the all one, the one thing. Yeah. So there's a start, yeah, of understanding that. Then we go into something called the torch analogy. Again, this is all channeling, right? So the torch analogy was, you have a torch and you have a bulb hit the torch, and say that's the source of the light, because that's what it would be, wouldn't it? Right? The bulb of the torch would be the source of the light source. And so the light source is shining out in all directions, this bulb. And if you look really close to the source of the light, you get dots in your eyes, right? Because it's really, really strong. And as that light spreads out, it becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Yeah. More denser, if you like. And so if you looked at the light source, and directly the frequency directly to the light source would be say archangels, and the next part of the frequency would be angels, and the next part of the frequency would be cherubim, and the next part would be guides, the next part would be spirit, the next part would be soul, and then to us, right? And maybe a little bit beyond, but that gives us a scope of this whole ascension. It all comes back to there. So you are actually archangels. You're just on the lower density to that, so you can experience yourself from that element of separation, of that, so you can understand you. Because otherwise, if you just knew that, it would just be boring, right? What would you do for eternity? Just twiddle your thumbs. Right, I'm done. What else are you going to do? So you have that, and then there's like the dragonfly story, and the dragonfly story is it's beautiful. And there were these dragonflies called Kirsty and Sam and Colin, and they were all at the bottom of this lake, and they're all running around like eating these little bits of microbial things and everything else, and having a bit of fun together. And Sam said to Colin, when the day comes, if the day happens, and I get that urge, because I've heard that I kind of go up above there, if it happens, I am going to come back and I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you, Kirsty, as well. I'm just going to tell you exactly what's going on. And we all make a pact. And we say, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. And so one day I get this urge, and I'm going, oh, guys, I can feel something. And it's not what you're doing to me. It's something else. So I climb up the stalk with my little legs, and I go above the stalk, and I'm like, oh, it's air. Wow, this is different. Okay, I can breathe. All right, this is different. And then I felt my back going, and my wings kind of splayed out, and I was like, holy crap, I've got these things. What are these? And I had to wait for the blood to kind of thin them out, and just to kind of fill them out a little bit so that I could flutter them. And I thought, oh, and I realized I could fly, and I'm flying around. I'm having all this fun. I'm going, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm looking at all these things outside of that lake, of that little container that really the bigger world outside. And I'm like, wow, this is just absolutely amazing. And then I remember, shit, Kirsty and Sam. So I had to fly all the way back down. I'm going, right, I'm gonna have to find, there's the stalk that I came out of. And I go, I'm gonna tell them now what it's all about. This is amazing. And I go, boop. Oops. Boop. And I can't get through the water. And Kirsty and Sam are at the bottom going, I can't believe he didn't come back and tell us. I can't believe he hasn't told us what it was all about. How could he do that to us? How could he leave us like that? And I'm there trying my hardest to get in to tell you. And you didn't know. That's what death's like.
Beautiful analogy.
Right. And then you have the butterfly that starts as a caterpillar. And when it goes into a chrysalis, it completely turns into liquid and then becomes the butterfly. Totally liquidizes. Now that can't be comfortable for the caterpillar. Right. but it goes into a container. It goes through a transformation into something else. It completely transforms itself. Yeah. That's what death's like. If I asked you a question, what makes a vase a vase? Could you tell me the answer to that?
What you put in it.
What you put in it. Yeah, good. Anything else? Okay. What makes a vase is the space within the vase. And also the space outside of the vase. That's what gives anything shape and form. And so if you were to look at you as a vessel, let's do another little test. Okay. I want you to just close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to describe your brain to me. So, so Sam, go first. Describe what the color of your brain is, Sam.
The color of my brain?
Yep.
I don't know what the color of my brain is. I only know what the color of
Just
other
guess.
brains
Just
that I've
whatever. Trust your
seen.
intuition. What's the color you see?
Dark red.
Dark red. Okay. And what about you, Kirsty?
More lilac-y purple.
Lilac-y purple.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What kind of what does it look like? Does it look flat or does it look squiggly?
It's quite squiggly and somewhat discombobulated most of the time.
Yeah. Kirsty?
Yeah, there's no real shape to it. It's bumpy.
Yeah.
Moving.
What kind of consistency is it, Sam?
My physical brain has got a slippery outer shell and a slightly squishy inside.
Nice, very descriptive. Nice. What about you, Kirsty?
Yeah, mine's shiny jelly sort of texture.
Brilliant. Now you've described your brain. Keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
Now I want you to tell me, Kirsty, what your mind looks like.
Yeah. I've often thought about this one. There's nothing. I can't.
Sam? How expansive do you think your mind is?
Yeah, it's space until I put something in it or something comes into it. So
have you ever felt your mind hit your skull? You go, oh, that's enough. That's the boundary to my mind.
No.
No. Okay, open your eyes. Okay. So we can describe the brain because it's a physical thing. We can't describe the mind because it's non-physical. But if you looked at the space in your mind, it would be equal to the space that's out there.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. So the only thing that separates your mind inside to the mind outside is your physical body. That is all it is. That's the only difference. It means you get to play in between, which creates the two realms.
Gosh, Colin, you're pushing me here. That's amazing.
I love it.
It's
and
great.
It comes back to that balance again, right? And how we can play within both worlds and create balance. Can I just come back to the tree and the because that was beautiful.
Yeah.
So on an individual level, and I really loved all of the tree branches. It's like as possibilities because for me, I feel like the last couple of years has definitely been like that, and the last 6 months especially, I was definitely out just like branches everywhere, and then I was just like, dear Lord, how many more branches do I need? I don't know that I need this many branches. It's exhausting. But now it's all starting to come in, and there's another couple of things that are coming to fruition that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have gone and done all the branches. I just loved that. And that kind of spiraling and interacting and coming back together. So it kind of gives me like a really nice feeling of, because it will come around again. I'll go off and do branches again at some point, but I will have a knowing that the branches will come back in for a reason. I'm not just willy-nilly growing more branches. Right? That's really nice. But then when you said about humanity, and that it's all coming into this sort of almost like a bottleneck feeling for me, like a boiling point of this. And then when it's going to branch out again from what you've done with your channeling and any messages that you've got coming through, and I'm sure you've sort of heard some of this stuff in the different areas that you frequent in terms of your learning. Do you feel there's an actual split coming?
Oh, absolutely.
And some
100%,
souls will
yes.
go and so some will go one way and some will go the other. And do you think they'll come back together again at some point, or is that split?
Well, the illusion is everything's separate. Everything's actually really together. You see, when we look at that analogy of the mind and the mind outside and the mind inside, and there's no difference between them. There's no distance between them except for the thing in the middle, which is your body. Nothing's really separate. Right, so nothing's really going wrong. This is what I said earlier. Nothing's actually going to go wrong. It's just that they're going to experience another play out of this lower density, and some people are going to have the play out of the higher density.
Yeah,
nobody
and
gets
that's
hurt in
okay.
this. People,
That's fine.
People experience this thing called pain and suffering, but actually it's there as an experience, because once you realize and once the body ceases to exist, you go, oh my God, I'm going in again. This time I want to go to planet Zarg, where I've got 3 eyeballs and 4 arms, because I really fancy having that experience. Boom, and you're there.
Do you know how my brain works when you're talking about that? The branches. I totally see the branches, but then my brain went to like a motorway. And sometimes you come off at a junction, and you end off going off all down the country road,
scenic route. The
scenic route, which can have a whole load of roadworks and all that shenanigans. Whereas the other one is smooth sailing, straight roads. So I sort of see it as that. But then all roads lead back to one.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that keeps us unbalanced, right? There's 4 aspects of the human experience, and we have the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And if we're not practicing all 4 of those, then we are unbalanced. And a lot of people have veered away from the spiritual aspect because of religion, and it's put them off, going, oh well, it's not. And again, that's conditioning, but it's conditioned them in a really non-productive way to refuse any of that stuff. But actually, it's when people start opening up, they find a whole different understanding of their life, and these big shifts and changes happen for them. I see that in my clients all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I really see that as a lot of the work that we do, it's creating a space to facilitate those experiences, but without pushing it on people. It's like, if you want to explore this, I can help.
I ask it in questions. I just ask a lot of questions. Well, if it's and again, the reason why I do that is so I'm plant-based, right? I have a plant-based diet, but I know a lot, and I don't call myself vegan for a reason, because I know there's a lot of vegan people that are in their own right, and that's hard up to them. I don't judge them for anything, but telling meat people not to eat meat eaters not to eat meat, and I understand their reasoning for that 100%. But when you're telling someone not to do something and they're already in a belief, you can't get to them that way. Their subconscious instantly rejects anything that's going to be said. Because it would be like a meat eater saying, well, no, you're going to have to eat meat again. And what do you think a plant-based or a vegan would say? No chance. Like, what's the difference? You're trying to get someone to change a belief like that. I would introduce it through the form of questions, because what we know is the subconscious mind cannot refuse a question, because it has to work out, is it dangerous for me or is it not? Is it pleasure or pain? And it needs to know that. And the only way it can know that is to open up to at least explore the question. So
opens up the mind to find the answer.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So I would say, did you know that when you eat meat, that the cells actually that you're having of that animal, if it wasn't done in a really humane way, did you know that can actually change the molecular structure to those cells, and you're eating traumatized cells? And that doesn't mean that, and again, I would say, and that doesn't mean to put fear in, because it's not about putting fear and making you change your mind. But you could do something to help that process. And that is, you could do a simple prayer offering over your food, and thank that animal for its life, because it probably wasn't thanked at the time it was killed.
really
Beautiful.
lovely, Colin,
you
actually.
know?
And also it puts the power to the person,
Exactly. And
because
intention changes everything, right?
absolutely. And then if they do take that on board,
Mhm.
every time they consume an animal product, they'll be saying a prayer and it will
Yeah.
connect them to the animal.
I bought a sheepskin coat, right? And people were saying to me, "What did you buy a sheepskin coat for?" Do you know what I made out of it? I made a flute case for my native Indian flute. And the reason why I did that was not because it looks cool, but actually it was the only way I could actually honor that animal that is now long gone, probably was never thanked or anything else like that. And now it's become a very sacred thing for that flute to come in, because the flute obviously has a voice through air,
Yeah.
and it has its own voice. And so now I've kind of given that coat that was being disregarded a new lease of life, and now it serves a purpose in a beautiful way. And the same as the cowhide drum that I have, beautiful deep drum, really really beautiful. And the reason I got that is because there's not much left of that animal now that was not honored. And why wouldn't I want to do my little bit to say thank you? Every time it's played, it's thank you.
That's beautiful. I
Yeah.
really like that.
Mm.
So like the sort of strict vegans, if you like, will get rid of absolutely everything. Well,
Yeah.
to me, that's just wasteful. If it's already there, how can you utilize it still and just be really thankful?
What if you had
And
roadkill on the road, right? People have been they were doing this for a long, long time, taking hides and making things out of it,
yeah,
and the animal was already dead. Well, what I bought was already dead. It had no other, and I didn't have a choice in that. But what I did have a choice in is how I treat that thing now, you know?
And honouring that animal and giving it
Exactly. Yeah.
that second life, that third
Yeah.
life, whatever life it's on.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you wouldn't
yeah,
catch me eating meat, because it's just not doesn't
Mm.
resonate with me at all, any kind of meats. But you will catch me having a sheepskin flute case,
Mm.
or a leather drum,
that's very different.
only
Very,
in the
very
way of honoring.
different.
Yeah, it's just honoring.
Yeah. Gosh.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that cow
Amazing.
speaks, by the way. That cow's got a beautiful energy. Like I literally tune into that cow every single time I play that drum. I can tune in, I can hear it, and I can feel it. It's like I tune back into that spirit, because obviously it's still part of something, even though it's not
That's so
connected to
lovely.
anything else. I still feel it. I tune into it. And then exactly the same as the flute. The flute came from a tree, don't forget, and that was a living thing,
Mm.
you know?
It's really a
And
return back to nature, a return back to connection. And I think that's where a lot of us are sort of finding ourselves being really drawn to,
yeah,
which is
a lot
the
of
very opposite to the
yeah.
crazy stuff that's going on in the world.
Yeah, you get a lot of hardcore vegans that again tell people not to eat meat. But if that person that ate meat said stop eating grass, 'cause did you know that you traumatize vegetation as well? That it does feel pain, it does actually get traumatized. They would go,
Well,
no,
that
well,
does
I've
happen.
got to eat, haven't I? It's like,
Yeah.
well,
That does
are you having your
happen.
cake and eating it there?
That is an argument that you do
Yeah.
get thrown at you
Yeah.
as a
And they can
strong
hear
line
the sound.
vegan.
They can hear the sound of flowers now. Yeah, plants. They can hear the
Yeah, I
sound, and they
know.
can pick up the sound, and they
It's
know when they're
beautiful.
in distress. So, it's a thing. Like, where do you draw the line,
But I think it goes back to, like when you say to meat eaters, just say a prayer to the animal and thank it. I suppose everybody could do that with, whether you're plant-based,
Yeah,
meat eater, just
yeah.
honoring and saying thank you to the plants, thank you to the farmers, thank you to, every part of that food
The
chain that got you
Muslim,
to here.
the Muslim communities, they have halal meat.
Mm.
And how that's actually processed is a really respectful way to the animal. Now, a lot of people would think it wouldn't be, but they use a blade, and they sharpen that blade. And if there's any nicks in that blade during the prayer process, they will actually stop, and they'll have to sharpen it all over again until it's absolutely smooth. They don't want any nicks on that blade at all. And then they do the thing, but that animal is cared for, it's loved. It even right to the point of its sacrifice, it's thanked, it's thanked the whole time through, and supported. And I think
And
that's the big difference to
yeah, for me that's really interesting as well, because that's someone actually looking at that animal and doing that. It's not a factory farm animal. It's not
exactly
being put through machinery and all the other like horrific things that happen within factory farming. So I don't think I would be able to do that. But I see that is also a return to living off the land and living in harmony with the land and the animals and the vegetation and stuff.
with
And going back
respect,
to
right?
it's a respect. And going back to thanking for the meal and being mindful what you're eating, it connects you to the food, and then you're going to think more about what exactly it is you're eating and what is it doing for it. Why are you eating it? It's not just mindless shoving shit in your face and wondering why you're sick. So that brings us really round to sort of like natural health and healing, which is what we're also all about.
And no one's saying you
it's a
can't
whole
eat French
cycle.
fries and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like, eat what you want, but like I had my fair
Think
share
about
earlier.
it, you know, I mean, I know Sam says this, you know, like if you want to go and eat that donut, go and eat it and enjoy it and feel good about it. Don't feel guilty about it and I shouldn't be eating this. It's enjoy your food. Enjoy.
That's what I say to carnivorous people.
Yes. Be mindful. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I say to them. I say, if you're going to eat it, enjoy it. There's nothing worse than going, oh, you know, I shouldn't really. It's like that's not the energy to put into it, because we know about the transference of energy into water with Dr. Masaru Emoto.
Exactly. We need another podcast. There's so much to talk about.
Oh
my goodness.
Keep going. And Colin, you're so captivating. I mean, for anybody that's possibly like this, like me, listening to this and feels like, oh my goodness, this is like over my head, mind expanding. You know, like I'm just sitting here going, you know, just taking it all in. I don't understand a lot of it.
Don't have to. It's about energy as well.
I'm open to listening. I'm open to hearing. I'm open to taking it in. And I may not understand. It's a process now, isn't it? I feel like I need to listen to this again and just allow the process of my brain to sort of marinate in it and find my sort of understanding of it. So anybody that feels like, oh my goodness,
and I do that intentionally, you know.
Of course you do. You know,
I throw it all, right? Like anything that's coming in, I just go, right, take it. Because there's other people that will do it step by step, and it's a process, and you get to learn each process, which is great, but it takes a long blimmin' time to get through the whole process. Whereas this, I just throw it all. Some of it will stick, some of it won't. It doesn't matter.
Just take from it.
It will integrate over time, and if you listen to it again and again, it will integrate over time. It's just where your neurons, your belief system, and the way the neurons are linked. You know, they have to disengage and create new neurons. And what they know through neuroscience is that your neurons with a long-term belief actually thicken over time. They can become a little bit more difficult to move. It doesn't mean they can't move.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, you know, like that saying, you can't teach old dog new tricks. Yes, you can.
Oh,
if
you can.
Willing. If you've got
there was a doctor actually that described that. He said, people are not dogs and life is not a bag of tricks. You know,
like that. It just takes a bit longer, right? When you've got that thickening of the neurons and the connections, and it's very uncomfortable, and that's the growing expansion pains,
isn't it?
It's really interesting, and then you slip back into that groove every now and then because it feels really comfortable. I love how you mix the like sciencey stuff with all of the spiritual. It's so helpful for people that are very sciencey to get a mix of both. So thank you.
We can blend that together now. We can blend science and spiritual together now. Would you like me to do a good quick thing on that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Right. So remember how we said neurons, they click together and they wire and fire together. And that when you put your when you go into I forget what the machine is now, and they can measure your brain waves and everything else, and they see the whole, certain parts of the brain lighting up.
Is that the ECG?
ECG, thank you. Yeah. So so music will light up the entire brain. Right. It goes through the corpus callosum, which is in the middle, and it lights up the entire brain. And if you looked at what's going on there, you've got electrical activity, but people think that memory, this is a recent channeling, by the way, okay? So memory, they believe, is stored within the brain, right? That you've got your long-term memory, your short-term memory, you got your language, right? Yet no one's ever been able to see it. No one's ever been able to bottle it up. No one's ever been able to tune into it and go, oh, there's that thought. It's similar to a computer, because we've been told our brains are computers, right? So if you had a computer and you had, say, a graphics card that was all block stuff, so it looked like Lego people, you know, and it wasn't really good, you'd need a new graphics card in there, right? So you'd upgrade your graphics card. So you'd swap it over, and so then that graphic card would link up and give you a different experience where you've got these amazing effects now and these great colors, right? Well, your brain would be like that when your neurons change. All you're doing is upgrading your graphics card to changing now into, so it can actually see something in a different way, in a more clearer way, in a way that really kind of benefits you more, and or less. Sometimes some people might downgrade it to have a crap one, but I don't know many people that do. But so you're always upgrading in that sense. But what I understand now is that our memory isn't stored in our brains. All right, we're tuning in. Remember, we are in a field of electrical magnetic energy. What we really see really isn't here. And you can take that right down to the subatomic particles and see that it's just light. Yeah, it's just highly condensed light. So it's not even really here, but it gives us the illusion that it's here. And it hurts if you punch it, right? So it gives you the illusion that there's something between you and it. And that information is all out in the field. All your memories that you're pulling in that information. You're pulling it in. And it's like you have, so I'll give you another example. So you have the internet, yeah, and we're on the internet right now. What do you need to connect to the internet? You need a computer. You need Wi-Fi, yeah. You need a hard drive to hold some basic memory. You also need a microchip, yeah. You need a Wi-Fi router to be able to channel it through, so you can get on wherever you are. You can tune into the information, tune into Google or this amazing podcast, right? Whatever it is, yeah. You need that to be able to find it anywhere. And I believe we're wired in the very same way. That actually what happens is when you see the thing lighting up in the I forgot what, ECG, when you see the thing lighting up, that's not where it's stored. That's just the computer switching on and channeling into that particular kind of thing that it's looking for, so that it lights up and then gives you the information. That's my brief take on it.
That's
There's
lovely.
more.
So I'm aware of the time.
I know.
So in terms of our connection to source and field and all of the information that's available to us, it's down to our choices as to how much we can receive. So if we're looking after ourselves, clearing ourselves of toxins, thinking about decalcifying the pineal gland, all of those sorts of things that we have got interest in, the clearer a channel we are, the more information we're going to receive.
Absolutely. And it's about opening up and practice, right? It's about, learning and putting what you learn into practice. Like knowledge, people say knowledge is power, but it's not. You can have an entire encyclopedia in your brain and you don't do it. It means nothing unless you apply it. So it's the application of knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Sam, like you saying that, like being a clear channel, that's one of the reasons why I decided to stop eating meat, because I had a real spiritual experience in Thailand when myself and Sam went to a retreat. It was a health and spiritual retreat. And, like if you'd spoken to me about channeling before, or any sort of experience of meeting, what do you call it, like angel guides and
higher beings and whatever.
Stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
I was just there like, okay, I read about it. I know people have. Never happened to me, but we went through a whole detox where we were just juicing to start with, and then it was just plant-based food. It was amazing. Felt so clean and so light. And then we did a meditation where it was meet your spirit guide, and I had the most intense, profound experience. And from that, you know, and hearing about, you know, like the energy that you're eating, you know, that animal had when it was going to its demise, you know, I'm eating that, and I was like, I don't want that energy in me. I want to be this clear channel, because I've had an experience, and not that it was that pleasant, but you know, it was there like, right, well, this is a clearing of me, so that I can be more in tune with my intuition. If that, you know, for just starters, never mind being able to, you know, channel any other beings out there. So yeah, just clearing that channel.
You have the internet, and you have what I channeled, the in tune net. You know,
I like
so
that.
yeah, so the in tune net, so that could be intuitive net or the in tune net, you know, slightly bigger than the internet.
And everyone's got that ability, haven't
slightly.
Yeah.
Slightly bigger.
It's just a little bit.
Little bit. That's it. Everyone has the ability, you know, because you hear about Colin and these amazing channelings that he has, and it's there like, wow, that's incredible. Wow, Colin must be super special. But actually, Colin's just like everybody else. Colin is special, of course he is, but we're all special, and everybody has the ability to channel.
I don't retain this information. Everything I'm talking about now and so much more, and I can see. All I can do now is I can see it now, just starting to log up, like dum dum dum, and I'll just keep going and going and going until somebody stops, because I'm already in that channeling mode. Yeah, it's already
super cool.
Yeah, and so I'll just keep going like a Duracell battery. It won't tire me out. And again, this is the other thing where people go, "Oh, I'm so tired." It wipes you out. You know, wipes you dry. I don't think anything of the higher vibration would do that to you. I think in anything it would leave you energized. And actually, when I finish here or a sound bath, I've got to go and eat. I just get really hungry. I'm like, I'm starving. I've got to have something to eat. You know, no matter what time it is, if I've done a sound bath, you know, and I finish at 10:30, I'm having something to eat. You know, and I feel like it energizes me, not zapping me of energy. So I question how we're tuning in at that point. But we all do it.
Absolutely, because I feel energized when I'm if I'm treating someone, or I'm doing any energy work, but I have had times where I felt drained, but that's because I wasn't clear. It was, so it is how you channel and how you prepare yourself, and there is a practice that's required with that.
And all the channelings I've done is never told me anything negative, even if I kind of wanted to maybe hear something that was, they never tell me anything like that. It's like, it's never. I do get one that comes in, a message that comes in, and again they always ask it in a question. This is where I got it from. All right. Because they go, oh, you know why this is happening? Like 2020, when that happened, that really weird year, I'm driving down the A12 where there's nothing, just tumbleweeds going across the road. It was brilliant. There's no traffic or anything. It's brilliant. And I passed the pylon, one of the 3G towers, and it seems like every time I pass that, I get information. It's really weird. And they said, you know why this is happening, don't you? And I'm like, no. It said, they want to create an economical collapse. They want to get rid of the money system. That was in 2020. And now look what's materializing now. And I'm like, blimey, that is interesting, you know, just. So I'll get questions like that. I'll get it in forms of questions like that, but it's never like, this is da 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 da, and it's all negative, 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 you know. And I can tune into those energies, and we can all do that. We can tune into them, but we have to learn to tune into them where we use them to our benefit, not to go and spread really bad negative information. We have to learn how to kind of play with that so we can turn it around and make it something that's productive, and see because what happens is you can tune into that energy and it will tell you what other plans are, and you go, oh right, how do I turn that into a positive? I know, I'll tell everyone the plan, you know. So you just you can kind of switch that around. I don't do that very often. It's not very often I go
instead
there,
of going into the fear of it, of what you're receiving. It's like, okay, so I can see that, but then here's a solution to that.
It can't not give you that information.
And
when it gives you that information, what you do then with it is you turn it around. You go, right, thanks. You're like a spy. Yeah.
And then that's a personal responsibility as well with this, is like, what are we delivering to everyone, and how can we is it for good? It goes back to that question, right? Is this beneficial? Is it in service of humanity, and is it for good? And if it's not, find a different way to say it.
Exactly. You know, like, and we do have a responsibility, everyone that channels, and we all do it, but we have a responsibility of how to put something across. So that maybe that's for people that are really passionate about what's going on in the world today. They have to figure out ways to put things across, you know, where you've got to think smart, because not only is it where you could upset people or make people fearful, but also you're being monitored through all the channels that you're in, you know, social media and all the rest of it. So they're going to monitor what you're putting out and
Absolutely.
you know,
And
and
be
restrict
smart
you
about it.
accordingly.
You're totally right. It's like, how does this empower people?
Yeah.
If I'm going into the fear narrative and spouting that and joining in with that, it's not empowering people. It's time for solution, I think. And if you haven't got a solution-based comment, then just don't.
Well, I'm putting lots of information at the moment on my Facebook, and I do it and I go in and out. Yeah. So again, I'm thinking smart with it. I'll do it for a little bit, then I'll ease off, because there's no point in me continuing, because it just becomes a drain, you know, and I know that makes people then feel negative, and I don't want that. So I'll go in there for a little bit and I'll talk about the sky, what's happening up in the clouds, and some really interesting things on my Facebook page that would shock people with what I've got and how I've compared it to what science is doing. And you go, holy crap, that looks so much like a scientific experiment.
I've seen some of those. They look really great. They look really, really great.
But I'll go in there and I'll do that and I'll share it, but I won't be offensive with it, and I won't be saying, oh, guess what they're doing. As I'll say, hey, here's this day, you know, and I'll have a conversation with anyone that wants to have a conversation in the comments. You know, you're not going to offend me, because you can't without my permission.
Bringing the science into it. People, you know, it's like, again, it's more relatable to the masses rather than just the individuals that are on your, you know, on your energy level. Yeah,
because you've got to remember, and this is one thing again channeled in early 2020, you know, and I did a Facebook Live on that, and I'm saying, you know, we're not at war with one another, you know, like no matter what's happening in the world, we're not at war with one another, you know, we're all brothers and sisters. We are, you know, we're just being taught that we're not, but we're all family.
Lovely.
You know,
we are. Amazing.
I think that might be a beautiful spot to almost end it. Sam's got another question though.
I've got too many questions.
We'll have to have a continued. I'll have to continue this.
All right. Okay. So from where you were in our last interview, which I can't remember when it was when I was still in Mexico. So it's a good, maybe is it a year?
Easy.
Gosh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll pull that off of Instagram, and I'll try and
yeah, let me know the date on that. That'd be really interesting, especially if it was like this date last year.
Oh gosh, can you imagine?
About a year ago. So from where you were then, what's happened in brief?
I was going to say
what's happened, and where are you now, and what's happening in your world? And yeah, just give us a little because we're obviously going to do another one.
Yeah,
of course we are.
Where I am now is I'm coming out, and I don't mean that in another way.
I'm coming out.
Yeah. The information now is starting to flow, and it's actually starting to now get out into the public eye. And I've had my own resistances with that, because it's like, oh my God, and the inner critic kicks in, and it's like, what are people?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I just get over it, because I'm like, it doesn't matter what people believe, they're going to believe. It's not for me to change people's minds. It's just to provide information, and what they do with it then. It's like, I don't refer to different things. So I don't like, I've got this amazing friend, Maria Wheatley, who's like, she's absolutely amazing on dowsing and ancient Egypt, and she'll pull up figures and books and names, and she is amazing. I've never known anyone like her. It's so good and got it down to a T. And I'm completely opposite. I'm like, here's some information, take it or leave it. If you don't like it, or if you're interested in it, whatever, go research it. You want to prove me wrong, go research it. Yeah. And then find your own findings, but do it yourself, because I think there's more reward with someone having to go through that whole thing instead of just being directed. I don't think we appreciate it enough when you go to this book, this page, this thing. It's like, well, you know, and I love what Maria Wheatley does. I'm not just kind of, you know, but it is I just do it a different way. I just get people
there's
working.
space for both, because
there is.
Inquisitive minds really like the journey of learning. And then some people I just want the facts. I haven't got time to go through all the crap.
Yeah.
I need to just show me what I need to know. So I think there's space for everything. Very interesting. I love that. Yeah. Really good. You haven't answered my question.
Oh yeah. So the channeling is coming out now. It's the YouTube channel is going to be reborn again, so to speak, because there's been a few things on there, but that's coming back. The office has changed now. There's a lot more things going to be happening. There's going to be a radio station that I've been invited to actually do, and something that we spoke about, Sam, was something I was
this
going
was
to
on
pay
the
to do,
cards.
and now I'm getting the opportunity to do it without, it's like, so that's coming in.
Amazing.
There is another big project about to be launched in October. That's really kind of hush in a way, but it is, I can tell you what the basic is a men's group. And
we need to speak to you.
and men need this. Men need to understand all these things that I'm talking about, same as women. And what I'd like to do eventually is an amalgamate a women's group with a men's group, so that we can just come together and have that community there. That is something that I see envisioned for the future. Yes, right. Exactly.
I was talking about this just the other day. I was like, we've got to speak to Colin, so we'll have a chat after.
There you are. Yeah, there you go. Right. See how it
so
works?
October comes, you're back on.
Yeah. So October,
yeah,
that's happening. I've written well, there's another book that's being written right now. That's got a bit of a story, so I won't go into that now. But there's another channeled book coming through, and I didn't write the book, by the way. Right. So nothing in there is from my own perspective per se, right? It's not from me talking about any experience. It's literally what I got channeled come in through an altered state, let's say. And a little tiny mushroom. That's all I'll say.
Lovely.
And the whole book was written.
Love those little fellas.
The whole book was written from that. It was like just amazing. So that's happening. There's lots of
projects.
like, there are loads of projects, and I've just got to kind of manage my time. And in EFT, I was obviously just blowing through the roof right now as well. That's gone really well. People getting great results. So and I think that's what it's doing. It's time. People see, again, this is how the awakening is happening. It's time. People are wanting to sort through their stuff.
Absolutely. And we kind of all knew that this time was on its way, right? Where we're doing it. We've been doing the inner work, the deep work, the stuff that we've been doing, preparing for when people are ready to explore this more, because they have to.
And positioning
so that's
ourselves.
what we've been up to.
Right? The thing I've realized with humanity right now is people are being positioned in like strategic places, and that's not by choice. Again, that's guidance. Like, you're in Mexico. Who would have thought you'd be in Mexico, right? Did you think that 5 years ago?
No.
Like, everyone's being strategically placed, and I think that's for a reason. I think, again, we're these antennas, so I think this whole thing is just wired in such a beautiful way.
I totally agree.
And there will be those that don't want that to happen. But so we're not out of the woods with that, by the way. Yeah, we've got some fight back to come, but it's okay, because it's a done deal. It's already done.
Yeah,
and it's staying in the energy of hope, isn't it?
Yeah,
coming back to that.
Indeed.
Yeah, and grounding and being in faith of being guided, because I think you're right, Colin. I don't think we have, like, those of us that are open to this, when it's not actually a choice. So much we've made choices and taken actions, but because of intuition. So it's definitely,
and the universe is looking after us the whole time, holding us, even if it wants to kick us up the ass now and again, because it says,
we definitely get a boot of the bum just to remind us. But Kirsty and I've got super exciting news. I've got some super exciting news as well that will be coming. It's so funny, similar timelines to you. We need to chat after this. It's so cool. And it is everything coming together. So I really do feel like that tree and those branches that we've all been off doing there is a pinnacle point on its way. So that's really nice. So I've just got one last thing then. So we are called Rise, and we have an acronym of Rise. And we just want to ask you what each word means to you. So I will start you off with R, which is rejuvenate. So what does that mean to you?
Rejuvenate would mean to me about rejigging, re-energizing, refocusing, readjusting, remembering, and just rejogging everything that you think you know and think you know.
Nice. I love the rejig. It made me go like this.
Yeah. Almost like I just saw something just going, like when you get a duvet, you just throw it on your bed like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
That physically differently. I'm rejigging.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah.
I'm rejigging with it. Yeah.
Right. Don't, because I'll sing. Stop it. Okay, Kirsty, go.
Okay, I'm so glad you're on the ball, Sam, because I totally forgot about this part. So, the second part is I, which is inspire. So, what is inspire to you?
Inspire to me is to be open to learning, open to accepting, open to knowing, and open to loving.
What a beautiful angle.
Gosh.
Mm.
Yeah, I love this little bit that we're doing. I think it's really nice.
You get such different answers.
I know. We should. Oh, I've just had another idea. I'll write down.
Okay. Write it down.
S is for strengthen. What does strengthen mean to you?
Strengthen means to support and to feel supported, to feel sustenance, to feel sense of purpose, to feel, with an S, celebrated. I cheated, but
We'll let you do that. That's all good.
There's no rules to this.
Yeah, exactly, right. Think outside the box that everyone else thinks outside.
There's no bloody box.
Exactly.
Follow outside the lines if you want, Colin. Carry on.
I've always crayoned like that.
Yeah. And the final word is elevate. E for elevate. What's elevation? What is it to elevate?
Elevation would be to reconnect to your divination, to aspire to grow and ascend in your awareness and your consciousness, and to always know that there's always hope.
Wonderful. I think that is a lovely place to leave us, actually. Yeah, really, really nice. But finally, Colin, where can people find you if they want to connect with you and just hear more about your amazingness?
Yeah, well, you can connect to me on Facebook, so you can type in my name, Colin Wyatt. I'm the guy with all the hair. Not if you're on a podcast, I don't actually have hair, so just in case. I'm the bald guy who's got a smile.
I was saying he's very much like Wayne. He's following the footsteps of Wayne Dyer, and what an amazing
exactly.
In that sense.
Yeah, right.
So catch me on there on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, Happy Mind Happy You, and also you can email me if you want to on it, info@happymindhappyu.com. And obviously I've got a website as well showing what I do and other things that can be of assistance to whoever feels drawn to coming along for the journey and the ride.
Yeah. Amazing. We'll put all of that in the show notes as well, honey, so everyone can access you. Thank you so much. I've literally not stopped smiling the whole way through. It's just been so lovely. Love these chats.
It's an absolute
totally expanding
pleasure.
my mind, Colin. Just
thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you guys. I've absolutely loved every second of it, literally. Been amazing. You both got a great way of interviewing, and it's good. You again, your energy between each other is magnificent. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful to experience as well.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. That's so lovely. Okay, so that's the end of episode 2. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy every moment of Colin, because, oh my goodness, just amazing. And as I said, we'll put all the info in the show notes. You'll find him there. And we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Thanks so much, everyone.
Happy integrating.
Yeah.